Good morning, everyone. This is Valerie Leonard. I am the founder of Nonprofit Utopia. And if you've been following us all during the month of October, we have focused on Census.gov. We want to be able to share with you different strategies for using Census.gov and the work that you do on a day-to-day basis. We have had a workshop on navigating Census.gov. We've also showed you how to use Census.gov to help you define your service area and your target. And then we've also shared other practical uses such as business planning, program design, and strategic planning. Today, we're here to focus on ways that you can use Census.gov in policy advocacy. Not that you need to be, quote unquote, a policy wonk, but we know that as nonprofit leaders, invariably, we find ourselves in a position where we're not just administering programs, but we need to actually engage in advocacy. And there are different types of advocacy. We're going to focus more on policy advocacy, but we'll give you an overview of various forms of advocacy, give you an outline for your advocacy planning. But the main reason we're here is to show you how you can use Census.gov to support those efforts. And we'll show you what data you might find on Census.gov in order to support your efforts. All right, and I am joined by our studio audience. I won't go into details as to who they are, but you see their names on the screen. If you're watching on Facebook Live or any of the other streaming services, we have a link where you can join us here in the Zoom room so that you can speak with Ileana and she can answer your questions directly. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and get started. All right, so we're focusing on Census.gov, and we realized that October is no longer here, but we had so many rich discussions and found so many opportunities for us to continue to share that we are continuing our discussions into the month of November. Even though we are celebrating our veterans and fundraising, we find it necessary to wrap up our Census.gov discussion. And let's be clear, we can use Census.gov in our fundraising efforts as well. So today, as I indicated before, we're going to be talking about policy advocacy, and I am joined by Ileana Serrano. Ileana is a data dissemination specialist with the Census Bureau, and she will come to you in her own way after I'm done. And I promise you I won't hold you too long. I just wanted to set us up so that you can see a direct application. And as my luck would have it, my screen seems to be stuck. Okay, so we're Nonprofit Utopia. We're the ideal community for emerging nonprofit leaders. And our mission is to train the next generation of ethical nonprofit leaders. And we do that through workshops such as these, but we also have other professional development opportunities. We've got an online community, a private online community. We also have online courses. We do other trainings like these. We have an online bookstore, and we do consulting as well as coaching. And our vision is to train up to 50,000 people around the world between now and 2033. You can find out more about us on nonprofitutopia.com, and you can actually join us at nonprofitutopia.co. A little bit about myself. I've been in the nonprofit space for over 30 years in various capacities. I started nonprofit Utopia 3 years ago, and I also courses in nonprofit for UIC, as well as courses in social enterprise at Roosevelt University. And as I indicated before, if you've been following us as nonprofit leaders, you'll be called upon from time to time to describe your service areas. This could be for a number of reasons. You could be doing an elevator pitch, you could be doing a strategic plan, you could be doing a program, but regardless, we've all been asked to, on the spot, describe the communities we serve. And if we're writing proposals or doing a strategic plan, our first instinct is to refer to a set of tables that were prepared by someone else to describe our community. And we soon find that not every table is designed to fit our specific needs. They're usually done in a manner that they're general and a number of different people can use them for different purposes. So what we're here to show you today is how you can go from the most general to, actually tailor the data for your specific needs. So I'm going to share briefly with you what policy advocacy is, because we are showing you how you can use Census.gov in your policy advocacy. And after I'm done, Ileana will come to you. All right. So when we talk about advocacy, we're basically talking about, taking a position in defense of a person, population, issue, or cause. And when we talk about issue advocacy, we're talking about raising awareness around a broader problem or issue. And usually that problem or issue impacts a local school. It could impact a community. It can impact a city, state, or what have you. And in this example, if a local community does not have access to potable water, or if domestic violence is not being taken seriously by the local police, we then can launch a publicity and activism campaign around these problems to draw attention to them and ideally create change as a result. And often one of the first things we do as we describe our service area and our targets is refer to census data and other types of data. And when we speak of policy advocacy, we're speaking about solutions. And instead of solving a problem for one person at a time, as we would in, say, case advocacy, right? Case management, or simply raising awareness about a problem, we're actually trying to analyze the cause of the problem and develop policy-based solutions to address these in a manner that creates sustainable and enduring change. And we also want to interface with people who make laws and make policy, right? Because, they're the ones who can really affect change over the long term. If you change the rules that govern the way we live, you can, in fact, affect long-term change. All right, so this table or diagram, it comes from the National Democratic Institute Policy Development and Policy Advocacy course materials developed by Shannon O'Connell. She describes the core components of policy advocacy. And at the very basic level, we're focusing on delivering services, right, as nonprofit leaders or even as volunteer groups. And then the next step is to raise awareness. And then we build capacity within our own organizations as well as within our stakeholder base so that they can become better leaders, so to speak, better communicators. And then after that, we mobilize and influence various audiences. And after that, you develop a policy. You look at, what's been happening, what should change and how it should change. And then you want to convert that language into drafting legislation or developing, strategies. Those strategies could be at the community level, they could be at the city level, state, national level, or even global. And then you want to advance the legislation or these strategies. And then you want to track and evaluate the results. So very similar to a strategic planning process, but your focus is on changing policy. All right, so here are typical components of a policy advocacy campaign. It's going to vary from situation to situation, but these are typical. And I have put an asterisk by the areas where you would more than likely use your Census.gov data, right? So it all starts with understanding your target area. In many instances, it's at the community level, but we can even say, again, whatever our geography is, you want to do an assessment of that area, and then you identify some of the problems. And when it comes to quantifying the problem, Census.gov is a really good tool. If you're looking at people, the demographic data can help you, get a sense for the numbers of those people who are impacted. If your policy campaign is around the need to create more job opportunities, workforce development, or even economic development, bringing jobs to the community, you can, in addition to the demographic data, you can begin to look at the economic data as it relates to your labor force, as it relates to different business establishments and telling you where they're located and all of that stuff. So again, that's in the community needs assessment. You're trying to find out what the issues are. You're trying to quantify the problem. You want to know who the players are and what's been done and what needs to be done, right? Then after that, you set goals and objectives. Your goals tell you what you want to do. Your objectives tell you how you're going to achieve those goals. And then you use segmenting to identify who your target audiences are. All right, so you would do a stakeholder analysis, and stakeholders are basically those people who care about the issues, people who are going to be directly or indirectly impacted, people who are pro or con the work that you're trying to do. And then you also are looking at your primary audience and your secondary audience. Again, those primary audience are those people that you are going to impact directly. Your secondary audience might be another segment. It may be a communications audience, who you're trying to get your message out to. And then again, your audience could also include supporters and opponents. So you're going to have an overall message, but your message is going to be tweaked depending on to whom you're speaking, right? And then the next area where you might use census data is in developing your message. Not that you are going to use this data to actually craft the message, but it will help you to target the people and understand where they might be, right? And some descriptive data around them. So once you know who you're going to target, it's very helpful to know a little bit of something about these people, and you craft your message accordingly. And then you'll also, once you develop the message, you have media strategies, and then you identify your messengers. And again, your messengers are 9 times out of 10 going to be people who live in the community, and using the census data can help you to develop a prototype description of who your ideal target is. And then you want to have a messenger that mirrors that target or those various targets, right? And then you identify the resources that you're going to need to carry on the campaign. You look at what you already have in hand that will help you carry on the campaign. Then you develop your strategies and tactics. And then once you implement your strategies and tactics, you want to evaluate how it's going. And you don't want to wait till it's done to start evaluating. You want to evaluate very early on to see if there's a need to make any corrections. And then after the campaign is done, you'll evaluate again. All right. Are there any questions before I turn it over to Ileana? She's going to show you how to navigate Census.gov to get some of the data. Again, you can't find everything that you need from Census.gov in order to develop a campaign, but you can definitely use, some of the demographic data, some of the housing data, some of the economic data to begin to identify issues and quantify issues. But as you know, it's going to take a combination of information sources in order for you to really refine your message. All right. Are there questions? It sounds like there might be. I'm not looking at the screen. All right. So if you need to contact me for any reason, you can email me at valerie@nonprofitutopia.com. And if you're interested in joining us, you can do so at nonprofitutopia.mn.co. All right. So I'm going to turn this over to Ileana.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm just transitioning to sharing screen. Are you able, Valerie, just verify if you're able to see Census.gov?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Wonderful. Great. So good morning, everyone, and glad that you were able to join us this morning for this session of the Nonprofit Utopia. Since October is Census Month, or Census in October. But what I'm going to do for you today is navigate you to some sites that will help you start gathering data, if you will, or background or research material for your program or your service area. There are a lot of different areas that you can explore on Census.gov, and that is what we as data dissemination specialists, if you want to say excel in, we can point you in the right direction. And we have individuals such as myself throughout the nation that basically come to you to help you navigate and understand what we have available online. And our services are for free. So please, if you know of a colleague in a different state or a program that could use our data, feel free to share with them our information so that we can go ahead and share the breadth and wealth of Census.gov. Okay, so to start off, there's a lot of data that we publish, and sometimes it seems like we can publish or we have data on everything, but we don't, because we are guided by Title 13 and Title 26, which basically gives us the authority to do these surveys, but also we have to keep in mind the confidentiality of our respondents, and that kind of limits us as to what data we can publish at different geographic levels. So as an understanding, all of the surveys, censuses and surveys that we do, all the questions that are asked of that program are designed, tested, approved by Congress, and then we take the guidance of OMB in order to ask those questions of the public. So it's not, we don't ask these questions at random. There's usually a program or a need that requires this question to be asked, and that is why we have all these different surveys and programs. If you look at that tab, and these are just some of the most high profile surveys and programs that we do. We don't only collect data for the Census Bureau, we collect data for other agencies as well. So you're looking at housing information. We have some characteristics data, but other more detailed or more involved data comes from HUD. So you would have to go there. We collect data for the Bureau of Labor Statistics through our CPS, our current population survey. We have some of the data that we can tabulate from CPS, but in terms of the specific labor market, labor would be the current population survey. Okay, so again, we just don't do it for census, we do it for other agencies, and we also contract with communities when they feel that their communities have grown and they don't want to miss out on that tax revenue. They contract with us so that we can do a special census of their area so they can get their numbers updated and therefore receive the correct allocation of federal funds for their community. So right off the bat, these are your navigational tabs at the top of Census.gov. And if you are looking for more information on topics, this is where you would go. And of course, you have your A to Z because these are just some of the most popular topics that we get asked for in terms of data. So if you're looking at education, employment, housing, health, so on and so forth, to get you better versed into what we collect on housing and which programs collect information. For instance, let's go to education. Okay, so here you have some data, news, publications, surveys, and programs that collect data on education, but you also have specifics, okay, on the topic and um, recently released news, data as you go down are publications and also visualizations that can shed some light on these different emerging topics with regards to education. Okay, and you're definitely welcome to download these as a PDF or link them to include in your program writing, newsletter, so on and so forth. They're there for the public to use. So this is your deeper dive into that particular topic if that is one of your issues for advocacy. Okay, and you've got quite a few topics that you can go further into and start, edifying your the information. The explore data is where you are going to go to look at your tools. What do we have out there that can help you extract the data on that particular topic? If you come down to the link on the left, data tools and apps, you're going to be led to a list of a lot of different tools, okay, that you can use. You have Flows Mapper that, and these is just an example, I'm just picking them at random. Flows Mapper is a tool relatively easy to use that helps you um, look at county flow pattern, meaning movement. Who moves in, who moves out, where do they move to, so on and so forth. Geocoder is another one that you can use to get at the geographic data for extracting the data. Essentially, all of the data that we publish is attached to a geography. And if you don't know the geocode for that geography, that could be very challenging. For instance, you can have an address, and when you type it into the geocoder, it will give you the block that that address sits in, the tract that that address sits in, the county, the school district, the congressional district, so on and so forth. So if you wanted to pull data for that particular geography, you go to the geocoder, enter the address, extract that, and then use those GeoIDs to get at the data through data.census.gov. Whether it be tract level data or congressional level data or school district data, whatever, it's there for you. And these are all public facing tools that you can use. Here we have a set of data equity tools. What do we mean by that? We have the pandemic brought to light a lot of need for very quick, relevant data. And we deployed several data tools um, in partnership with other agencies that gave us real deep insights into what was going on with our businesses and our communities during COVID. The questions changed depending on the situations on the ground, but we also have other tools that can help you, especially those underserved communities,
Mm-hmm.
utilize these tools so they can research what's going on in their area. So you have Census Business Builder, two versions. Community resiliency estimates. This one gives you an indication of how resilient your community is. Be that they use, like, I think, eight variables that are indicative of resiliency, such as employment, education, poverty, housing, so on and so forth. So you can look at that. Household pulse and the small business are, again, as a result of COVID, that give you on the ground data with regards to how the COVID is affecting these communities. You have income and poverty and so on and so forth. So just to move on, you get a sense of that we have tools out here that are available for you to explore. And if you need assistance in them or have questions on them, you can definitely, reach out to me and I will help you understand as much as possible. So that is, and like I said, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are like four or
Mm-hmm.
five pages of different tools
Wow.
that you can use, okay, on the data.census.gov. And here, if you keep going down, health insurance, international trade, keep going. You have, okay, this is a good one for finding your geography, so on and so forth. So you get a sense that we do have a lot that kind of touch bases on a lot of the topics that we hear out in the news, assistance, so on and so forth. So that's under there. We have the library that gives you access to publications and visualizations, infographics, data on your surveys, okay, and about us, our news. Every time we release something, you can go to our media room and get a press kit, and it's, like I said, public facing, so you can see what it is that we're going to be releasing, talking about, and the data associated with it. Finding a code helps you look up NAICS codes for your businesses once you establish what that business is, and some general information on this one. It's more public facing with regards to like staff directory. If you get people knocking on your door, you can come in here and query the database to see if they are truly a Census Bureau employee and from what division, so on and so forth. So, general information. What I'm going to do now is show you different areas that you can go to extract data. One of the simplest ones is our data profiles or our narrative profiles. And this is from the ACS, or the American Community Survey. Real quick, for those that don't know, ACS is an offshoot of the decennial, so responses are mandatory. And basically, what it does is it's an annual survey that collects characteristics on the population, whereas the decennial census is every 10 years and collects basic demographic data of the population. Big difference in what you can get of those two surveys. But through the ACS, which is the data that most people use to paint a picture of their community, if you will, this will help you start looking at the landscape. So here I would suggest that you, or recommend that you, come in here, and especially the guidance for data users and the technical documentation. We have these little booklets okay, that will help you understand what it is that you can use and the challenges to the data. And if you explore how to use it in a nonprofit education, research lab, so on and so forth. So you can come and explore the site. It'll give you the methodology that is used for the survey and, of course, the technical documentation. Important to know this if you are using the data because there you will get questions about the data, and so it helps you answer those questions better, okay? And it'll help you understand the data that you are looking at. So, under the Data tab on the left-hand side, all right, this is where you start accessing ACS data. If you go up to the data tables, okay, you're going to start looking at data profiles, narrative profiles. You can do comparisons. Selected population profiles will give you a lot of basic ethnicity and ancestry type data, and of course, different tables as we go. But a narrative profile essentially gives you a narrative of your community. It's all written out for you, so you don't have to worry about um, composing an article or a paragraph of the numbers. Example, we're going to go to census tract. And let's see, Illinois, I'm going to pull up a tract from our Boston community. Okay, and so let's see, 25. Go down here. Mm-hmm. Okay, and this is single geography, so it may take a little bit. You can't select like 6 tracks and then get a profile. It's by individual geographies. So we're going to get the profile, and it will give you a written profile incorporating visualizations or graphs and pie charts, so on and so forth. And this way, you have a write-up of your community. So that gives you that in that tract, this is what's going on in terms of households and families, marital status, native or born, okay? What language is spoken, mobility in terms of is this a very transient tract? Evidently not. They're in the same residence for a while. And then you have education, disability, employment. You look at the different industries where the residents are engaging in terms of employment, and the different occupations. Okay, so management and business seems to be out there, service occupations, public transportation, sales and office, and then those that commute to work. So you see what this profile is showing you. It's giving you, for a tract area, it's giving you pretty detailed composite of what is there. Okay, this one is good. Participation in government programs, those that are in receiving food stamps or health insurance aid or housing aid. Okay, you have your pyramid. I mean, it's a lot. It's a complete profile that you can get on your community. And unfortunately, though, let me go home. This is not downloadable. These profiles are not downloadable as they are. You can print screen or you can copy and paste them, but in terms of getting a PDF of this, that is not available as yet. Okay, we have voiced our concerns about this and how a lot of people do like them, but they are working on getting that to us. Okay, so that's your narrative profile, and that you can get through surveys and programs on ACS. And that is, let's see, the profile, and then you could also do a data lookup right away. Instead of going to data.census.gov, you can look at the data tables. Okay, and let's do a data profile. Okay, now you have limited geography for the data. Okay, and so Let's do one for Illinois. And let's go to Oak Park since we have someone from Oak Park. We can look at that place. Okay, so with this, the data profile, it's going to ask you what sector of that profile do you want to look at, that data. Social characteristics, economic, housing, or demographic. Let's look at social. And this is one of the indicators, they'll take you to data.census.gov, but these are indicators of the tables that you should start looking at. We usually recommend that instead of just diving into the drill down or that specific one track analysis, look at the broader picture and then start drilling down depending on what your endeavor is. Because you don't want to put blinders on, you want to see what's going on in the surrounding areas that could possibly be affecting your service area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this, you need to look at the broader picture and then start drilling down to the more specifics. But on the social characteristics, you've got a plethora of data available for you
Hmm.
that you can, this is downloadable. Okay. Down over, if you click that download item, it's going to ask you which table do you want. Okay, it's selected. And what this, the download option allows you to do is you can look at different vintages. Okay, so in this, you can do some kind of trend analysis. And it's downloadable as a CSV, but of course, you can file it or save it to an Excel. Now, caution on downloading all of the data sets, all the vintages, I should say, because with ACS, this is a 5-year estimate. So 2019 is going to have 19, 18, 17, 16, and 15. Okay, those 5 years, which means that if you use this one in 18, 17, 16, and 15, you're going to be overlapping these samples.
Mm-hmm.
So, for comparison's sakes, make sure that when you're looking at a data set, you are taking into account those 5 years. So now you can do 14 and then so on and so forth. Okay, whatever's available. ACS started in 2005 for the 1 year estimate. So you may not be able to go for the characteristics as back as 2000. 2000 and back, you would need to use the characteristics, the summary files from those decennials. Okay, if you wanted to do that historical analysis. But this is what you can get through the tool. You can download it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to change or add a geography. Let me close the download. Okay, you can filter it or customize the table, whichever. I like using the filter. And it's telling me right now I've got Illinois and Oak Park. So I'm going to be getting two different data sets for those, or the data set for those two different geographies. You want to add another one, you can certainly come over to the left, use your geographic filters, and we're in Oak Park. Let's look at, you know what? Let me just show you another feature. Ignore this, okay? We want to do a neighboring community, but let's say on the ground, I do not know what's around Oak Park other than the city of Chicago. I can go to my map.
Yeah.
I hit a sweet spot. Okay, so I can go to my map and zoom in and look at where we are at and see that little light blue? That is where Oak Park sits. Okay.
Yeah.
So say I wanted to look at social characteristics through, say I want these communities that abut Oak Park. I'm going to select my geography and say, okay, I want River Forest and I want to look at Forest Park. I know that, whoops, I don't want that. Uh, I want to deselect it because I didn't want that. Okay, so let me stop that. So those are the ones that I want. I know that this is the city of Chicago. You can include that, but I'm sticking out here. So we started with Oak Park, added River Forest and Forest Park. I go up here to my table, and now you've got Illinois, Forest Park, keep going, Oak Park, and River Forest. The same table that I started out with, which was the DP, the demographic profile 02, which is social characteristics, but I have added other geographies. Okay, so you can play around with that and look at the surrounding areas and then start to make decisions. And of course, you can export it to an Excel spreadsheet. Printing it, I wouldn't suggest because it is very limited to kind of like 4 columns. And but you can definitely download it and then select the vintages that you want to look at. You can change your geographies. Let me go back to the table. We're at social here. You can change your geographies, add or delete, or even your topics. Okay, if you do the download, no, not download, sorry. Didn't mean to do that. I wanted to do a filter. Say I wanted to change, we're in the demographics right now, the social characteristics. I want to look at income and poverty. You can do income and poverty, and each of these boxes will close your selection options. If they're on line items such as this, you have other selections. So I'm just going to look at poverty, see what happens. Okay, so now it retained my geography, but I have a different table. And as you scroll over to the side, you can see there's Forest Park, Oak Park, and River Forest. Okay, and you've got your estimates and below poverty percent. And as you scroll down, you get different cohorts of data that you can also look at.
Okay, this is awesome stuff. So if you were doing a policy advocacy campaign and you wanted to make a point that your community is underserved relative to the state or these other, nearby communities, you can use this table to begin to do that analysis.
Absolutely. And another thing that I wanted to point out, this is the main page of Census.gov. We have Equity Initiative for Underserved Communities. Highly recommended that you read this article because it will give you insights into other areas and other tools that are available for your exploration. Okay, and you start delving into. I would read that article before I play around with the tools and the data. It'll kind of put you in the right path. Okay, but again, this is a learning process. The more you come into the tool and understand the data, the better or the more comfortable you will feel about downloading and using the information that we have. Margins of error are one thing that we need to look at because that kind of shows you a little bit of uncertainty about our data. And with the Census Bureau in ACS, we tabulate the data at the 90th percent confidence interval. Okay, so we're 90% sure that this is the right number. However, we let you know that right now it's saying population for poverty is determined. The 5 to 17-year-olds, that's the number, but it could be plus or minus 1,491. And somewhere in between that is the true number. And that is because this is a sample survey and only a portion of the nation gets these questions, not everybody, as in the decennial. Okay. And another thing with regards to decennial data. People like to use decennial data because they can go down to the block level and analyze at the block level, okay, what's going on. Because of today's computing problems, or not problems, challenges, if you will, we have a lot of computing power out there that can harvest not only census information, but mash it up with third and fourth party data harvesters. And with that, it is relatively easy these days to identify who our respondents are, especially the lower the geography that is available. So the census is using differential privacy, which is being used by Google and Microsoft and so on and so forth. And that is basically we look at the data for that geography. And if there is a risk of disclosing that the respondents at the lower geographies, noise is introduced, so it may look a little fuzzy. There's an article in the newspaper today on with regards to differential privacy, how some communities are doing their deep dives into these block analysis, and they're looking at, well, this block has 17 housing, but it says there's no population in it. Okay, when you look at those two different characteristics, you've got data for one that says the houses are occupied, but when you look at the population for that block, it's saying it's zero. Okay, so these are the things that when we're using this deep dive into decennial data, one has to keep in mind. Our recommendation is, yeah, it may look fuzzy. If you really want to look at it, move up to the next level, which is the block group level. Okay, but we have to do this because we've got choices to make in terms of quality of data or protecting the confidentiality of our respondents. So something to keep in mind if you're doing 2020 decennial data. Okay, any questions?
Excellent presentation.
Thank you. I know you love the mapping bit, and that could be like the fun thing to use is our mapping tools because we're visual people. We like to see what we're analyzing, right? Not just tables and numbers. So these mapping tools can really bring your service area to light.
I agree.
Can anyone do a special census for their community?
The special census program is going to open next year, 2022 or 2023. Oh, I'm pulling up block 2021. I think sometime next year, I believe. But it is any community can request a special census. There's a fee attached to it, so they have to look at how much it's going to cost them to do this endeavor. And it's basically a mini decennial in that community. It's the same process, the same questions that are asked, just a basic demographic, not the characteristics. And yeah, it's throughout the nation. You have to look at your local laws or guidance because there are some states that, not like Illinois. Illinois, you can have as many special census as you want, as long as you pay for it. But there are other communities or other states that only allow a special census mid-decade or one, every 4 years or 5 years, something like that. So one does need to, if you're out of state, you do need to look at what the requirements are.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Valerie, I think that's it.
Yes, ma'am. This was awesome. Awesome. And we have several videos that you guys can take advantage of. They're on our YouTube page, the Nonprofit Utopia YouTube page. And these are the videos from the past demonstrations from Ileana. And as you can see, Ileana is sharing with us other tools that we can use that are on the Census.gov page. There are videos, there are booklets, and other tools, the Census Academy, so you can kind of teach yourself. There are webinars, upcoming webinars, recorded webinars, looks like courses and tutorials, and you can actually request the data training. I believe that's how I get Ileana to work with us, by just sending an email and requesting. I don't know if there is a special channel, but I'm blessed and fortunate that I've been working with Ileana for almost 10 years now. So whenever we want to do a training, we just email her, but I believe you can call in. Is that correct? And request a training?
You can. A lot of people, prior to us developing the form, there is a requested data training form that you can fill out, and they will put it in touch with or funnel it to the correct data dissemination specialist that covers that area. Most of our requests come in because people don't know that this is a new feature. They will send an email to the regional office, the Chicago regional office, which covers 8 states. And so they will send it there, then they will contact the appropriate data dissemination specialist that works in that region. So there are different ways that you can go about it. We are
Mhm.
definitely here to provide you that support that you need. So whether it comes from a referral or a form or a phone call or an email, we're there for you.
Okay, awesome, awesome. I just want to say thank you again, Ileana. Anytime I've asked Ileana to help out, I might have an email, send her a question by email, or most importantly, have her facilitate training such as this. She's Johnny on the spot. And I want to thank the folks who have been with us for the past month, because as a result of your attending the very first session and letting us know what you'd like to see in the future, we pulled together, about 6 additional trainings where, there's more practical application. And we'll be doing another one. Our final one will be on housing. And Ileana and I need to get together, check our calendars, and when we can do it. If there's anyone in the Zoom room who has a date and time that they absolutely can't make it, let us know. I know the folks in Oak Park are very, very eagerly looking forward to the housing session, and we need to keep them abreast. So we want to make sure that we do this at a time that you can do it. So if there's a time that you can't do it, I believe you have my email address, Valerie F. Leonard at nonprofitutopia.com. Please let me know of dates that you can't do it. All right, and before we go, I'm going to ask one more time, are there any questions or comments? Do you have thoughts about how today went?
Oh, I thought today was excellent, Val. I enjoyed the correlation between the maps and the tables. As we're losing districts and as we're losing areas that we once knew in common reference, North Lawndale or something like that, the only way we can maintain an understanding is by going down to the blocks and actually tracking it by the block, so that whether it's
Mhm.
half of 9 and half of 19, or whether it's all of 34, or it's still the community that we grew up in, it's still what we know.
Right.
So how do you keep track of the name changes? Without losing I want to say the efficacy of the collected data.
Mm-hmm.
34 was its own ward. Now it's going to be split between 9 and 19 with the concomitant considerations of each. Or, Lawndale is being shifted from being majority Black to majority white. What's going to happen there? I mean, we got to have a way of having a common framework. And right now, all I can see are the blocks, the track.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That we have an interest in an area that's composed of these blocks and tracks, then it won't matter what they call it. Well, I should say it will matter what they call
it. It's what we answer to, right?
Yeah, buddy.
But yeah, as you probably know, and I think as Ileana will tell us from time to time, that even those census block boundaries may change. So we have to be vigilant about that too.
Oh, I can't rest on it. No sleeping. No sleeping.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Joanne, did you have any comments before we go? And Ileana, I thank you, and I thank all you guys for staying 10 minutes longer.
just want to, I just want to write grants and get us more involved and connected so we can receive this money. Because with that grant for the Build Back Better Regional Challenge, it
Mm-hmm.
was connected to us being connected as a region. So we needed to connect with other people from other states. But
Wow.
we can at least get connected like that in the community in order to help each other. Because one of the main things they was telling us to prepare for with our region and what we could do with the first phase money is to prepare our communications, prepare our families, and connect with the families in our community. So if there is a disaster or emergency, we could just make a phone call and tell these people where to go so we could get out of there. Not like it was when Katrina hit that
Right.
first time. And those people couldn't get out because they, for one, didn't have the money, no transportation. And one of the main people that got out of there were the people that got on the bus with the man that stole the bus.
Mm-hmm.
So our people shouldn't be in a position where we have to steal a bus in case of an emergency. And they're telling us now to prepare, you know?
Right, right.
So I want to help us to prepare for an emergency. That's what we need to be doing in our communities and setting up communication and making sure we all have broadband. If we have these skills to write grants and they're giving away broadband internet connection for our communities where there's low reception or people can't afford it, and we could write grants and we don't do it, that's just like not using your talents that the God gave us. That's like that man with the one talent and he just buried it.
Right.
So, and it's on our, that our lives depend on what we do right now. So I'm just trying to connect to do those things.
Okay. Now, Ileana, thank you so much. Ileana, do you have a link to your survey?
What do you mean our survey?
Your survey where you get feedback from your training. I think we had some awesome feedback. I didn't record it all. Most of the feedback came before we started recording. So I'm wondering if you can send me a link to your survey and I'll send it out to people that have attended.
I will definitely do that. And yeah, this is where the link will give our attendees the opportunity to give us feedback in regards to what we presented, the content, or even the mode, the platform that was used, so that in future we keep those things in mind and we look at ways to make it more engaging and more relevant. And to the young lady that just spoke with regards to the grant writing and the data, she was just right on point, because one of the things that we learned from Katrina, to use that example, is, and this is not something that is new, we know this because of our survey work in the field. Our response rates are fallen because people don't respond to our surveys. And case in point was Katrina. Katrina hit in an area where traditionally the respondents did not participate in our surveys. So, and I know there was a lot of other issues there, but when it came to providing emergency relief, equipment, items, so on and so forth, the data did not support what we sent. Meaning that we had 10,000 people, but only 100 responded. So that's the data that we had. That's what we were supplying. So if we, as responsive individuals who know and value the data that we are looking for, it's if we encourage more people to respond to census surveys, we will have more data, better quality data that can service that community. Because if we don't have the responses, we don't have the data.
Right.
Right?
Right. That's awesome.
That's just a plug for our surveys. You know the value of the data. We don't get it out of the air. It it definitely is the people, our
Right.
respondents, who are giving us the power of the usage of their data for, whatever endeavor it is that we have. So
Might
I
I
thank them
suggest a
every day.
security program? That's the same problem that came up, Val, while we were doing the redistricting work with the Hispanic groups,
Mm-hmm.
that their trust level in how the information was used
Mm-hmm.
is what
Right.
was inhibiting a lot of the responses. And it seems like that trust level inhibition is not limited to just Hispanic individuals.
Oh, it's not.
Seems like we've got trust issues in most of the minority communities that we work with. So perhaps some type of reassurance that the data is secure, that they could participate fully without compromising their status. Maybe those are things we should think about as well.
Mm-hmm.
And connect those things to membership. If we have a membership of people that we're connecting to safety measures, then that will be easy for us to send that information out to them. Like, you're going to send it to us to do the survey, and they'll trust us because we are a call center that will help them. And we could also connect real numbers to the census. I'm just thinking of how we could connect, because if we have 1,500 people in a community and only 10 are responding, and we know this is what we're going to get if there's an emergency, we need to get that out to the people somehow. And if we're providing safety and security to them, in a sense, letting them know that if by having a membership with us, you will have a connection to safety if there's an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Create ways to make sure that they have emergency packages, because FEMA give you the information to prepare these packages. It's just so much we can do with what's out here, and we're not even skimming the surface.
Right. Well,
but we're saying we need these things, but we're not doing what we need to get those things. So
right. You and Norm could probably talk for a week on end, nonstop.
Believe so.
Okay. All right. So I believe that this is the end. And Ileana, before we go, can you share your contact information? You could just say it verbally where people can contact you.
I just wrote it into the chat.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Right. So it's Ileana.c.
Oops, sorry, it should be .Serrano.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Ileana.Serrano is what it should be.
I'm doing it again.
Okay.
Okay, that's the correct way. It's Ileana, ILEANA, .C as in cat, .Serrano, SERRANO, at Census.gov.
All righty. So thank you again. We really, really appreciate your time and effort and your overtime. All right. I don't know if your boss gets to see these videos, but just in case, we just want to let your boss know that we love you. We appreciate all the work that you have done with us in communities all around the city of Chicago. All right. So without further ado,
Valerie.
All right. So without further ado, I'm going to end this call. And again, thank you everybody for attending.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right, bye-bye.